Tonight, the faces and names of those killed in a plane collision in our southwest, a seasoned Qantas pilot among them. Labor's historic defeat in Queensland as voters fire a warning shot to the Albanese government. A spotlight on the RBA. The governor's eye-watering salary is laid bare as Australians struggle to make ends meet. La Dolce Vita in Leichhardt, thousands descend on Norton Street, are all things Italian. And the Kangaroos claim rugby league revenge against New Zealand.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. The family of a Qantas pilot killed when two planes collided in Sydney's southwest say their loss is immeasurable. 72-year-old Gary Criddle, one of three people who died near Picton, where investigators are starting to comb through a crash site spanning 1 kilometre.
Gary Criddle, an aviation aficionado with over 50 years' experience, working as a pilot for the Navy and Air Force before 3 decades of flying with Qantas, where he met his wife, Sue, a flight attendant.
I don't know that my last flight for an airline will be my last flight. I love flying. It's fabulous.
The 72-year-old was instructing a 29-year-old pilot inside a Cessna travelling from the Hunter to Wollongong around midday yesterday when it collided with another light plane over Bulimbla Park in the Macarthur region. Gary and his pilot were both killed, as was 60-year-old Kadiavali Gagaturu, who had flown out of an airport nearby at the Oaks. Gary's family remembering him as full of fun, laughter and generosity, saying his loss is immeasurable and he will be deeply missed. His son Jeff telling 9 News, "I just want the world to know the amazing man he was." Qantas also paying tribute, calling Captain Gary a highly respected and loved member of the team. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau took over the investigation today.
Looking for any recorded information we can, anything that was on the planes that'll give us a better idea of what occurred.
The ATSB also looking into the history of both aircraft, a Jabiru matching the model and serial number of Mr Gagaturu's plane involved in a crash with a previous owner in 2022.
We will look at the history of both those aircraft.
This marks the 7th mid-air collision in Australia over the past 5 years. The investigation focusing on whether both planes were using the correct communication protocols.
This is what's known as Class G or non-controlled airspace. It is very much up to pilots. It's an alerted see and avoid principle.
At the Oaks, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
The Liberal National Party has ended nearly a decade of Labor rule in Queensland, with Premier Stephen Miles conceding defeat today. It was a tighter contest than expected, but Labor's loss in the state election has sent a warning to the federal government.
A new state leader pointing to a new chapter.
They have voted for a fresh start.
The ballot box count not only marking change for Queensland, but Australia.
That isn't just a Queensland problem, it's a national problem. As a warning sign to Labor that it needs to start working out how to actually appeal to these communities.
A blue wave breaking through Labor's sea of red across the country. Starting in the Northern Territory in August, the country Liberal Party shattering Territory Labor, and now Queensland, the LNP ending Labor's 9-year reign.
That's a big effort, that's a big swing.
The outcome was much better for Queensland Labor than what was anticipated just weeks ago, let alone months ago.
The Prime Minister not celebrating a win, but culture today.
Best Prime Minister in a generation.
Good on you, mate.
Good on you.
Thank you so much.
Embraced by some, but not all. As Anthony Albanese dished out sweet treats in Sydney.
Ice cream's on elbow.
And a serve to the Greens, who have suffered a swing against them.
I think there's a big message in this result for Adam Bandt.
Queensland voters have sent a clear message to Labor, and it's one the federal government will be keeping a close eye on less than 6 months out from the next election. The PM phoning the now Premier with a message of congratulations.
We have a big job to do, both in terms of our bilateral relationship, but also through the National Cabinet.
I look forward to working with him, as I look forward to working with Opposition Leader Peter Dutton.
Claudia Radoljak, 9 News.
Disruptions are expected at schools across Sydney tomorrow morning, with thousands of teachers attending a union meeting. Let's go live to Nine's Ruth Wynne-Williams at Dulwich Hill. Ruth, what's the advice for parents tonight?
Pete, this will affect every public school in our state. A Monday morning stop work meeting for nearly 60,000 New South Wales teachers between the hours of 8:30 and 10 a.m. The union says there'll be minimal supervision, Pete, on school grounds during that time. Some schools have gone as far as to tell parents to keep their kids at home until at least 10 a.m. In some cases, Year 9 and Year 10 exams are being affected. We are being told, though, that the HSC will not be affected. They're being very clear about that. It's also teachers can come together to get an update about a recent pay offer from the state government. The action will have a different impact on each and every school. So parents, before you drop your kids off tomorrow morning, check the details. Pete?
Ruth, thank you. She's received a salary increase greater than the total paycheck of many struggling workers, making RBA boss Michelle Bullock one of the highest paid central bankers in the world. That's after warning some struggling taxpayers they may have to sell their homes to stay afloat.
It's a tough job, but getting a massive pay rise to do it in this economy is also a tough sell.
Part of the reason for the RBA's large pay rise is because of the very high inflation rate that the RBA has failed to keep down. And so I don't see how at all an RBA governor should be rewarded for failed efforts.
That governor, Michelle Bullock, recently explained why interest rates needed to stay high, even though it was hurting some borrowers much more than others. Their options, as she saw them, hard to swallow.
This includes things like cutting back on their spending to the more essential items, trading down to lower quality goods and services, dipping into their savings or working extra hours. And some may ultimately have to make the very difficult choice to sell their home.
All not helped by revelations that she earned $811,000 for her first 9 months, suggesting a yearly base salary of $1,080,000, $106,000 more than predecessor Philip Lowe. Based on tax office data, the median annual salary for a primary school teacher is $80,000, a midwife around $75,000, senior police detective $123,000, even neurosurgeons earn less at $462,000. And by comparison, the central banker for the world's largest economy, US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, only earns the equivalent of around $290,000 Australian dollars. Essential workers are also struggling to win even a third of the pay increases of the governor and her predecessor. This is the same RBA whose then governor told Australians they shouldn't expect a rate rise until this year, only for them to go up 13 times from May 2022. Putting the spotlight on the institution itself.
The consequences of the RBA's mistakes have been very harsh for many Australians who trusted them, trusted that they wouldn't raise interest rates.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
A 29-year-old has been left with a broken leg after he was hit by a car at Sydney Olympic Park. Witnesses claim a silver Mitsubishi was driving down Olympic Boulevard at speed just before midnight. The 19-year-old driver returned a negative roadside breath test with no charges laid. 3 more emergency transmission towers have been built in Broken Hill in the state's far west to provide electricity. The town has been without a stable power source since a severe storm 10 days ago. Permanent electricity is on track to be restored by November 6. The Democrats have turned to another heavy hitter in the battle to secure the last of the undecided voters. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris both stumped up in Michigan today, where early voting is already underway.
For all the unknowns of an election campaign, there's always a stop at the bar. Today on the trail, a tale of 2 cities in one important battleground state.
We win Michigan, we win the whole deal.
This presidential race is closer than any in recent history, and here in Michigan, a state with a large Arab American population, the war in Gaza could have a profound impact.
We as Muslims stand with President Trump because he promises peace.
Future. And we understand the opportunity we have on the topic of Gaza. We must end that war.
In Kalamazoo,
or should I say Kamalazoo,
the former First Lady joining the trail to support Kamala Harris becoming the first woman to win the White House.
We can't just sit around and complain. No, we've got to do something.
And make no mistake, we will win.
For the Democrats, Michelle Obama brings serious popularity, but she's also an effective messenger who could mobilise voters at a time when every vote counts.
A lot of people respect her, even some marginal Republicans, so there's a few out there that I think could be persuaded.
I have such fear of the alternative. The choice is so obvious for me.
Little more than a week to go, and tonight the president who passed the baton delivered a scathing assessment of the man he beat 4 years ago.
He's a loser as a candidate. And more importantly, in my view, and I'm just going to say it straight up, he's a loser as a man.
In Kalamazoo, Michigan, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
The Iranian president has confirmed 4 of his country's soldiers were killed when Israel unleashed a wave of retaliatory airstrikes. After offering his condolences to the families of the dead, the leader warned Iran's enemies that it will answer any stupidity with strategy.
The strikes on Iran were precise and they were deadly. This, one of the sites hit by the Israeli Air Force, which went after air defence systems and missile facilities, including in the capital Tehran. Iran downplaying the attacks as limited, but later confirmed at least 4 Iranian soldiers were killed and declared it's entitled and obliged to defend itself. This footage released by the IDF claiming to show its fighter pilots preparing for the middle of the night attack.
We can get anywhere in the Middle East. There is no target behind our reach. What they saw last night was a small test, an example for our abilities.
A calculated response to Iran's missile barrage at the start of the month, but not the escalation many feared. Nuclear and oil facilities were spared.
It looks like they didn't hit anything other than military targets. My hope is this is the end.
But few believe it is. Iranian proxy group Hezbollah has condemned Israel's actions as it continues to come under heavy fire in Lebanon and send rockets across the border, more than 200 in the past day. In Gaza, days of military action at the Kamal Adwan hospital appear to have ended. Israeli troops withdrawing with detainees. This area in northern Gaza and the broader region may be catching its breath, if only for a moment. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
At least 9 people have died across Ukraine after a series of Russian attacks. Major cities were hit, including Kyiv and Kherson, the deadliest assault striking the central city of Dnipro. 5 people died there, including a child. It prompted President Zelensky to renew his appeal to Ukraine's allies, asking them to put pressure on Russia to stop the escalation of war. New pictures tonight that show how 2 police officers came so close to being wiped out by a train after their vehicle landed on tracks at Mount Druitt in Sydney's west. The officers were chasing a speeding trail bike before they lost control around a corner.
If you blink, you'll miss it. A motorcycle darting down Mount Druitt's George Street, a highway patrol car hot on its tail. The rider looking over his shoulder before turning a corner. But as police follow its speed, they don't quite make it. Just seconds later, a train barrels through. The 2 constables inside scurrying to safety. 1 track over, and it would have been a very different story.
They put their thumbs up, they're both safe. There was smoke, of course, coming from the car, and that's when we really thought, oh, this is serious.
Towed off the tracks, no doubt out of action for some time. The rider still on the run. Tonight, a concern for locals.
Residents say dirt bike hoons are a problem in the area and regularly speed along this road, which is a straight stretch spanning more than a kilometre with not a speed bump in sight.
They use it as a racetrack. They ride around unidentified. It's a danger to the public.
This same camera capturing another as 9 News was there today. In Mount Druitt, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Sydney's Italian hub, Norton Street in Leichhardt, became even more Italian today, if that's possible, with the annual Festa. But with many businesses there closing down over the last few years, there's a renewed push to bring everyone along with Team Italia.
Since 1986, for one day of the year, one strada in Leichhardt becomes a piazza lined with pizzeria, the Norton Street Festa.
We're trying to bring back that sparkle, that spirit, that soul of Little Italy that it used to have, 20 years ago.
Because sadly, in recent years, little has been left of Little Italy.
Some Italian businesses moved out, new businesses moved in, so we're all about diversity now.
And so, along with the industrial-sized arancini and fat fingers of cannoli.
Mate, they're huge.
They are, 100 grammers.
Keep up the good work, Paolo.
Thank you, mate. Piping away for the crowd here.
Festa would find French crepes, Spanish paella and Greek octopus living alongside the Fiat Bambinos, as well as the latest developments in pizza technology.
So not pizza, but pinza.
It's got a pinza,
So
yes.
P-I-N-Z-A.
S-A.
Along with the food, there were statuettes made from lava powder from Mount Etna and doormats for one's casa.
Daniel, I'm a little bit concerned about this particular expression here. What's that, machikazovoi?
Machikazovoi.
Which means?
What do you want, politely?
The PM rolled up, the MC being a good boy.
That'll go straight to Mum, I promise.
Then, after a Festa, bringing the Italian out in us all. In Leichhardt, Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Dear oh dear, it is time to check in on the day's weather. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening to you, Pete. We've enjoyed a beautiful Sunday, mostly blue skies and sunshine. The harbour looking absolutely gorgeous as Sydney-siders headed to the coast to enjoy the warmer than average spring conditions with just a light sea breeze. The city dipping to a low of 11.5 degrees this morning, warming up to 24 mid-afternoon. Our west falling to 10 degrees around sunrise, slowly reaching a top of 28 late this afternoon. Now, we are expecting some light showers this week, but we will see warmer than average temperatures. I'll be back with the full forecast a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you. In the news ahead, Anthony Albanese under fire, accused of claiming free Qantas upgrades. His response is next. The 3G mobile network is in its final hours. What you need to know ahead of its impending shutdown. The $300,000 plan turning the tide on rock fishing and its dangers. And the perfect tonic, the King's verdict of his tour Down Under. The Prime Minister has hit back at criticism over his relationship with former Qantas boss Alan Joyce. After revelations, he was given at least 22 free flight upgrades worth tens of thousands of dollars.
From time to time, members of Parliament receive upgrades. What's important is that they are declared. All of mine have been declared.
Anthony Albanese confirmed 10 flights were paid for by the Australian Labor Party. From tomorrow, tens of thousands of older mobile phones and devices will stop working as Telstra and Optus switch off their 3G network. Australians are being urged to check in on the elderly, with concerns people will lose access to 000 services and medical monitoring equipment. The shutdown is designed to boost the speed and reliability of 4G and 5G networks. Rock fishing is still one of our most dangerous sports, with 8 people dying each year despite the warnings. Now an expanded program will target communities most at risk with free life jackets to ensure more fishers make it home.
Reeling them in off Tarameta on the northern beaches, but one freak wave and Hardy Taha is swept off his feet. Pushed across the rocks, struggling to breathe. But luckily he lands in a rock pool and he always wears a life jacket.
It'll potentially be the thing that determines whether I get back home or not.
Now Hardy runs safety workshops to teach other rock fishermen about the risks.
it is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
The people that predominantly partake in rock fishing, and we see represented in our drownings and rescues, are from non-English speaking backgrounds. We're actually going to deliver these programs in the communities as well.
The Surf Lifesaving program has just been given a $300,000 boost from the state government, now set to give away 1,200 life jackets.
Once they've completed that training, they can get access to free life jackets, which are the very things that will keep them alive.
Until now, the message hasn't cut through.
I don't think it's complacency. I think it's just education and awareness.
128 people have died since 2004, and yet 79% of rock fishermen still don't wear life jackets. Kurnell and Little Bay, two notorious black spots. Randwick City Council has one of the worst track records in the state for rock fishing, with 8 people dying in 10 years. That's despite efforts to turn the tide, including mandating life jackets.
This is something that we want to see expanded across New South Wales.
At Little Bay, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
In the news ahead, the Brookvale business taking their virtual reality technology global, recreating scenes of real-life emergencies. The Hollywood heavyweights throwing their weight behind Kamala Harris. The nasty crash at Chullora, which left a car roofless, and the never-before-seen photographs of Princess Diana and Prince William. It's hard to believe from the remains of this car that the 20-year-old driver and his passenger survived. The silver Honda colliding with a truck on the Hume Highway at Chullora just after 10 last night. They were both taken to hospital in a stable condition. The 26-year-old truck driver returned a negative breath test. From war zones to shopping centres, an Aussie virtual reality tool is recreating the scenes of real emergencies to help train the military and police for worst-case scenarios. The technology, developed in a Northern Beaches warehouse, is going global. The company just landing a multi-million-dollar deal with the US Defence Force.
This is not a game.
Door on the left. Door left.
The guns are real, the adrenaline pumping.
Don't move, don't move. Got a hostage. Don't move, stay down, stay down.
Wayne Jones and Will Beaumont served together with the SAS in Afghanistan.
I'm going to push through and go around to the right. On.
Now all the action they see is virtual through their system Operator XR, developed in Brookvale.
When your heart's beating, you're sweating, it's confusing, it's dark.
An immersive training tool for military and police.
As threats evolve, so should your training.
Here, an exercise to take down an active shooter and rescue a hostage.
The goal of that is to really expose them to things that are difficult to replicate in the real world.
A little bit nerve-wracking.
Felt very real. The feel of the gun, the feedback and the recoil as well.
It allows users to train with their own weapons, mounted with VR sensors. Instead of ammunition, this M4 assault rifle is loaded with CO2. More safe and simple than live training.
It's very low risk to do, and it takes a few minutes.
Creating virtual replicas of real locations for repeat drills.
Airport security, key infrastructure, embassies, train stations.
The WA Police Force uses it to train recruits, but their prime market is the United States.
Ranging from state police departments, federal agencies, county sheriffs, and now the US military.
And the Aussie startup is not alone. Drone Shield, another local player, going global, selling to allied nations, including Ukraine.
Thanks to this anti-drone gun, the soldier says, we've managed to tackle the drone.
A growing industry, albeit controversial.
Weapons drawn and discharged.
It's difficult to get a clear picture of Australia's defence exports. The government is secretive about exactly what is sold to whom. But last financial year, it came to a total of more than $100 billion. Homegrown and now harnessed by world powers. In Brookvale, Annalise Bolt, 9 News.
They're some of the most celebrated actors in the world, but today Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro took supporting roles, rallying behind Kamala Harris.
A Hollywood heartthrob in a brand new role.
What's up, Philly?
Leonardo DiCaprio endorsing a new leading lady.
The choice could not be clearer, and that choice is Vice President Kamala Harris.
The climate change activist hardly warming to Donald Trump.
They're trying to quiet your voice.
DiCaprio appeared alongside fellow A-lister and friend Robert De Niro.
It makes me so angry that we're here talking about a piece of like Donald Trump.
The 81-year-old has long disliked the former president.
Let him die in a jail cell.
This Tinseltown double act almost too much for the locals.
Leonardo DiCaprio, my heart's beating at him, my chest.
Yet more star power out in support for Kamala Harris had this Democratic crowd on their feet and in raptures. But with 10 days to go, particularly here in this crucial state of Pennsylvania, they know there is plenty more work to be done yet. What if Donald Trump becomes president?
Right now, I'm laser focused on turning out to vote for Philadelphia to ensure that that question you asked in no way, shape, or form becomes a reality.
Because over the next 10 days, we'll decide the direction of this country, and it is all in our hands.
In Philadelphia, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
King Charles will resume his regular overseas schedule next year after his successful trip down under. Buckingham Palace shared that the royals genuinely thrived in Australia, describing the visit as the perfect tonic after many months of cancer treatment. Well, she was the most photographed woman in the world, but some special images were kept private until today. Prince William has shared several unseen photos of Princess Diana from a 1993 visit to a homeless shelter.
My mother went about her usual part of making everyone feel relaxed and having a laugh and joking with everyone. I remember at the time kind of thinking, well, if everyone's not got a home, they're all going to be really sad. But it was incredible how happy an environment it was.
The Prince is appearing in an upcoming documentary on homelessness. Ahead in 9 News, the staggering amount of money Aussie music lovers are losing on concert ticket scams. How you can protect yourself from dodgy deals. Plus, Roo on the loose, but not where you'd expect it. Those stories after sport with James. And talking about Roos, the Kangaroos get revenge on the Kiwis.
They certainly did. Good evening to you, Pete. They were made to work for it, though, in Christchurch. Coming up, how the star-studded Aussie side dug its way out of trouble to go back-to-back in the Pacific Championships. Why the Wallabies say Joseph Swiley is already proved his selection was the right call. Plus, a first lap frenzy causes chaos in the supercars at Surfers Paradise.
And will Sydney's gorgeous blue skies stick around? I'll have the forecast for your week ahead shortly.
The hidden impact of going under the knife.
Exposure to surgery is like jumping forward 5 months in your life.
Groundbreaking research reveals what happens to our brains and what we could lose.
We measured reaction time, fluid intelligence and some memory measures.
9 News, your news, tomorrow at 6.
The Kangaroos have said all week they're hell-bent on restoring pride in the Australian jumper, and today they took a big step towards doing just that. Australia surviving a tough trip across the ditch to notch back-to-back wins in the Pacific Championship, beating last year's winners, New Zealand, 22 points to 10.
Still hurting from last year's humiliating defeat, the Kangaroos didn't need to be reminded of how dangerous the Kiwis can be. A typically intimidating haka. When the game began, it was Lindsay Collins who couldn't be contained.
Splits them! Lindsay Collins gallops away! What's going on here?
New Zealand stayed in the arm wrestle and were rewarded for it.
Out the back, Keating, that's good! That's how you break them open, a bit of Kiwi razzle-dazzle.
But this star-studded Australian side,
Trebojevic trying to get on the outside and does! He's busted them!
Was always going to be hard to stop.
He goes one-on-one with Keating and gets the better of him.
Lomax's second try, a bit tighter for space.
Lomax, another one in the corner.
The Kiwis kept coming, but they couldn't find a way through the Kangaroos' defence. So, desperately needing to score, Sean Johnson tried going over them.
It's taken! It's a pivot on the same spot of grass by Warbrick for the try! Australian defence into dizziness.
6 points the margin until Dylan Edwards streaked away.
Slicing through the Panthers fullback. Moses on the backup dashes away.
Revenge for the Kangaroos ahead of a likely rematch in the Pacific Championships final. Sam Jordan, 9 News.
The Jillaroos are also bound for the final, exacting their own slice of revenge over the Kiwi Ferns, 14 points to 0. In their lengthy rivalry, it's the first time Australia has ever kept New Zealand scoreless.
You definitely feel that, the grind, possessions start to take over, but yeah, it was one of the toughest games of the year for sure.
The final in 2 weeks is expected to see the arch rivals face off again, New Zealand needing to beat the PNG Orchids next week to advance. Critics of Joseph Swali's inclusion in the Wallabies spring tour haven't been afraid to unleash, but the 21-year-old is doing everything he can to silence them. Teammates of the rising star confident he'll succeed and has the mental game to back it up.
Joseph Swali has made an immediate impact on his Wallabies teammates.
He loves the contact, and you can see that he's just he's got some great natural talent.
But not everyone's been won over. Swali's selection drawing criticism, given he's yet to play a game in the 15-man code.
And the challenge for us is how you deal with that external noise. You know, what you actually receive and what are you actually listening to. Who are you actually listening to, and whose criticism do you actually accept for yourself?
So far, the 21-year-old is showing maturity beyond his years.
What impressed me the most about someone who's come in and he just wants to learn as much as he could, as fast as he can, so he can be the best version of himself for the team and for himself. The way that his mindset is and how he wants to grow and learn, it's going to take him a long way no matter where he is.
Swali isn't the only uncapped player who's taken an unusual journey to the gold jersey. Fly half Tane Edmund getting the call-up after a breakout stint playing club rugby in New Zealand.
It would be fair to say that if I didn't head over to Tasman, I probably wouldn't have got this opportunity. It's massive for me to kind of enjoy that process and try and get better. I know that was the main sort of idea behind it, was just to develop.
The debutants can expect a baptism of fire in the spring tour, with 3 clashes against top 10 teams, including the world's best team, Ireland.
It's going to be tough over there, which is a challenge that we're all willing to accept.
Nicole Zahn, 9 News.
Well, Steve Corica has claimed some revenge against Sydney FC, leading Auckland to a stunning upset over the Sky Blues, scoring in the final moments of this afternoon's game to claim a 1-0 triumph. Western City Wanderers in the other match still winless, drawing 1-1 with Western United. The Matildas say fans need to be patient as they adjust to life under interim coach Tom Samani. The Tillies touching down in Dusseldorf to face Olympic bronze medalist Germany after a 1-1 draw with Switzerland.
For us, we're in a bit of a transition period. We've had new coaching staff come in. We've had a few young players come in as well to the squad. So I think for us, it's a good start.
The last time the Matildas faced Germany, they suffered a 3-0 loss. Manchester City is on top of the Premier League ladder. Erling Haaland scoring his first goal in 3 games to record a 1-0 win over Southampton. The strike extending City's undefeated run at home to 35 matches. Aston Villa suffered a stumble against Bournemouth, conceding a 96-minute equaliser, draw 1-1. India is in crisis ahead of the Australian summer, suffering their first home Test series defeat in 12 years. The hosts humbled again by New Zealand in the second of 3 matches. Spinner Mitch Santner claiming 13 wickets, setting up the Black Caps' first series triumph in India. Paying 2 for the English, thrashed again by Pakistan, beaten by 9 wickets. There was drama from the very first lap of race 22 at the Gold Coast 500. 8 cars colliding in a chaotic pile-up, ending Anton De Pasquale's day before it had really begun. Starting on pole, Bathurst champ Brodie Kostecki was able to avoid the mess entirely, never relinquishing his lead in a dominant victory, his second of the season. Oscar Piastri will start Formula One's Mexican Grand Prix from 17th on the grid after a nightmare session that saw him eliminated in the first round of qualifying. It's the first time the Aussie has failed to reach Q3 this season. Carlos Sainz will start on pole, Max Verstappen second as he edges closer towards another championship. And LeBron James is showing no signs of slowing down with age. The 39-year-old posting 32 points and leading the Lakers to victory over the Kings in the NBA. The Celtics are undefeated too and on top of the Eastern Conference after beating the Pistons. While Josh Giddey had a point to prove in the Bulls' loss to the Thunder. At full time though, all smiles, catching up with his former teammates. Pete, that's it for now. See you tomorrow.
I'll be here. Thank you, James. Ahead in 9 News, the new tool to help get your money back if you've fallen victim to a ticket scam. Swapping the stage for school, the special message from the cast of the musical Hamilton to a group of Granville students. Also ahead, Brisbane bears all in the name of art. A Dakar takes drive-through to a new level at this busy bakery. A visit to a bakery turned very risky today, a car smashing into the front of the busy Live and Let pie shop at Goolwa, south of Adelaide. One of the customers, a 62-year-old grandmother, was pinned against the coffee machine and suffered serious leg injuries. She and the 69-year-old driver were taken to hospital, the bakery's products also ending up worse for wear. Australians are being warned of a spike in ticketing scams as international acts head down under. But in a win for consumers, a new avenue for compensation is available for fans who fall victim to fakes.
Who wouldn't be interested in a bargain ticket to see Coldplay next week? Or Pearl Jam next month? Or any of the huge acts coming soon? But scammers are flooding digital markets with fake tickets.
And as these criminal grubs do, once they see an opportunity, they dive into it and they exploit everyone they can.
NAB Chief Investigator Chris Sheehan says the average loss for a fake ticket scam is now $1,700.
So what that would suggest is that people are buying tickets for themselves and a couple of their friends, or themselves and their family, which just adds salt to the wound when you think there's a few people missing out for every one of these events.
Major banks will now intercept suspicious payments, calling out red flags like marketplace sales, unfamiliar accounts, heavily discounted prices and payments by crypto or money transfer. And those reminders are working. NAB says $160,000 in ticket purchases have been abandoned before completion in the last 3 months. That means those dodgy ticket sales were stopped. Of course, plenty of Australians are still falling victim to these kinds of scams. Roughly $19 million lost so far this year. But there is good news for some of those people, with the government introducing a new way to claw back some of those losses. A single pathway is being introduced inside the Financial Complaints Authority for victims to seek compensation.
There'll be tough new obligations on businesses, fines and penalties associated with this, and also avenues for redress through the Australian Financial Complaints Authority.
In the meantime, the advice is to only buy tickets through trusted retailers, or risk becoming another statistic.
It's a heartbreak for them, but it's also a real hit to their wallet.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
From Broadway to Western Sydney, the cast of the critically acclaimed musical Hamilton has gone back to school, giving students at Granville the chance to be in the room where it happens. With a culturally diverse cast, they're inspiring the next generation of artists, proving anything is possible with hard work.
From centre stage in Sydney to taking a seat in the audience at Granville South Creative and Performing Arts School. The cast of Hamilton had nothing but praise, cheering on the next generation of performers before putting them through their paces. Saved not by the bell.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It was straight into vocal training. Performing 8 3-hour-long shows every week with just 1 day rest for 6 months straight.
Alexander Hamilton.
This was just a taste of what it takes.
1, 2, 3, punch!
Taking them as an inspiration for us if we want to continue dancing in the future.
Usually I'm very shy and closed in, but the workshops made me really confident in myself and what I could do.
Being here in Granville with such a diverse community of kids, for them to see that it's possible for them to be in these positions, for them to be, in the spotlight, it just, I think it really shows that their dreams are possible.
A liberating lesson for aspiring young artists.
What I got out of today is how to be myself and how to
perform like myself.
The moment that is the most inspiring is when you have someone who comes up to you at stage door and goes, I've never seen me represented on stage.
In Granville. Madison Scott, 9 News.
5,500 people stripped off in Brisbane this morning in the name of art. The group lying down on the cold concrete of the Story Bridge for American photographer Spencer Tunick. He's been responsible for past installations at Bondi Beach and the Opera House. An Aussie native on the hop. Police in the US state of Colorado were called out to chase down a runaway roo. After a short pursuit, they managed to scoop up the kangaroo and take it home. Coming up in our news, Amber with the weather.
Thanks, Pete. Tonight should be clear with light northeasterly winds falling to lows of between 11 and 14 degrees. Right now, though, it is still 21 degrees outside in the city, 24 in our west. I'll have your full forecast in just a moment. We enjoyed a beautiful Sunday, mostly blue skies and sunshine with a sea breeze picking up along the coast this afternoon. Temperatures were around 2 degrees warmer than average, reaching 24 in the city, 27 degrees in Blacktown, Liverpool and Campbelltown, a warm 28 degrees in Richmond and in Penrith. It was mainly fine across New South Wales, just a few isolated showers about the north coast where temperatures were 1 to 3 degrees below average, but everywhere else was warmer than usual for this time of year. 24 the top in Coffs Harbour, Mudgee, Newcastle and Bathurst. Tomorrow, a front will move over eastern New South Wales. That will bring some late showers and storms around the far north coast, the Hunter, Sydney and the Illawarra. Brisbane expecting some showers tomorrow, 25. A partly cloudy day for Canberra, 27. Staying fine and a cooler 17 degrees on the way for Melbourne. We're expecting rainstorms and possible hail across parts of the northeast late tomorrow. That's around Grafton and Lismore with lighter showers along parts of the coast. Some very warm weather is expected across northern New South Wales, heading for 29 degrees in Grafton and Newcastle, 31 in Narrabri and Dubbo. Cooler conditions along the south coast, only heading for a top of 22 degrees in Wollongong and Batemans Bay. Sydney will be warm and sunny tomorrow morning before a gusty southerly change moves through late morning or early afternoon, dropping temperatures and possibly bringing showers and a storm. That will be most likely in the west. That cool change will drop temperatures dramatically, but before it moves through, we're expecting tops of 25 in Terry Hills in the city, 27 in Kellyville, Liverpool and Campbelltown, a summery 30 degrees in Richmond and in Penrith. Let's take a look ahead. It will be partly cloudy on Tuesday through to Thursday with tops of 22 to 26 degrees. A possible shower or two on Friday and Saturday, tops of 22 to 24 degrees. Warming back up to 30 on Sunday. Those overnight lows ranging from 14 to 18 degrees. In our west, fine at 26 degrees on Tuesday, reaching 28 on Wednesday. 30 degrees on Thursday with a possible shower. Cooler conditions on Friday and Saturday with a shower or two. Heading for a summery 32 degrees under mostly sunny skies on Sunday. So we are expecting some very warm temperatures ahead this week, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Before we go, here's a quick look at what's in store on tonight's edition of 60 Minutes.
Thanks, Peter. Tonight.
I don't think you can wake up one day and do something that brutal.
The crime that horrified Australia.
It smacks of hate, it smacks of narcissistic anger and rage.
Investigating the hidden past.
He was unhinged, deranged.
Of the monster who killed Lily James.
You can rot in hell.
Plus, Al Pacino.
That was my debut.
The best in the business.
Man, you're a nutbag. I love it.
That's tonight after the block. Back to you, Peter.
Amelia, thank you. I'll have the late news for you at 9:40 tonight. That is 9 News for this Sunday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.